turn it over. So up next, we have talking about the future of work, learning, and the workforce of the future. Of course, Brandon, Carson, talking with Felix, Cathryn, Juliet, Dolly, and Jan. All right.
Right.
Woohoo. Good day, everyone.
Have a great panel.
Have a great panel.
Thank you, Liz. Good day, everyone. Welcome to this panel on perspectives around the future of work, learning, and workforce of the future. So we have 40 minutes to re-architect the next decade of work. So, and I think we have the experts gathered that can do this. We all know change is the new constant for us as we navigate both the digital age and, oh, by the way, the year's pandemic, right? So almost every aspect of work itself has changed and is changing. And like Satya Nadella said in June at Microsoft's Build, Microsoft went through 2 years of digital transformation in about 2 weeks. And I think a lot of us probably have felt like we've done that as well. Especially us at Delta, as we had to move from, we literally had Zoom set up for all of our live virtual we were doing, and then had 24 hours notice from IT to move away from Zoom to WebEx during that whole kerfuffle around Zoom's privacy and stuff like that. So it's been a year, right? And we know work itself is changing, but how it gets done is also changing. So today's panelists are all experts in helping and forecasting the changes that are happening in the world of work. I'm happy to be here today to hear their perspectives on the future of work and really have a vigorous dialogue, I hope. And so just a note, please start placing questions if you have them, and our folks that are helping to moderate the chat will pull these questions for us. So first of all, I'd like each panelist to give a short but really good introduction of themselves so we can get started. I'll call you out individually. Kat, is it okay to say Kat or should we say Cathryn?
Absolutely. Can you hear me okay, by the way?
We can hear you perfectly. Can you give us a quick intro?
So my name is Cathryn Barnard. I'm a partner at Working the Future, which is based just outside of London in the United Kingdom. And we have been, for the last 4 years, analysing work trends to understand how our workplaces are changing, how our organisational structures are going to change, what we need to do as individuals to prepare for that, and what organisations need to do to prepare for that. And there's a lot going on there, even before COVID, a lot going on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, welcome, Kat. It's good to have you. Dolly.
Good morning from Washington, D.C. I am the founder of C-Squared Technologies, a company that is very focused on enterprise-wide learning strategies, helping organizations go from the chalkboard to distributed learning environments, which today means everything and anything. And in the old days, when I started the company 30 years ago, it was a very novel idea. So Art4 Company has been squarely focused on the private and public sectors in designing curriculum, in helping develop the strategies, corporate universities. And today we are helping our customers not only transition their learning, but also their organizations and how they're going to be redesigned for the future to map to the current and future environments as the job functions are changing, and how L&D now fits into their business processes.
Fantastic. Welcome, Dolly. And Felix, take it away.
Yeah, hi, I'm Felix Wetzel. I'm from, well, I'm in the UK, let's say that. I'm in the UK at the moment.
I didn't think that'd be a hard question, Felix.
Clearly it throws me, right? If somebody says, where are you from? Well, I'm from the world. I am the Chief Revenue Officer of Pocket Recruiter, and Pocket Recruiter is an AI platform that automates the matching of anybody in your talent orbit to any projects and jobs that you have. And while I'm super excited about technology, and I'm obviously all up for technology and AI and all of this stuff, what I see most and what excites me most is that actually I think the future has an ancient heart, and we're going back to much more human-to-human interaction, that the people and the human as not as a segmented little employer, consumer, whatever, but with one full human is in the middle of it. And that's what makes me really excited. And I can't wait until, we make this future reality. That's it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Welcome, Felix. Great to have you. Juliet, is it Juliet or Juliet?
Juliet.
Juliet, welcome.
Hi. So I'm the CEO and founder of Any Good, which is a platform where professionals recommend other professionals for roles. We focus specifically on the potential of people. We don't have any AI or specific technology that matches people, so it's purely reliant on human matching. And we also offer consultancy to organizations on how to best manage their own internal networks and networks they have access to leverage the talent within those networks and again gain recommendations on potential for roles.
Fantastic. Welcome. And Jan, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks very much, Brandon. So Jan Rijken, 2 roles. I'm a learning director at Wiley. Wiley is an American company that aims to provide support in terms of development from 18 to 78. So that's quite an ambition. And in addition, I'm a director of learning and development at the professor of learning and development at IE Business School in Madrid, where we look at workforce trends, where we look at learning trends, but also at how leadership development, let's say, progresses, especially interesting in this day and age.
Fantastic. Welcome. So that's great, everyone. Okay, we're going to kick it off. I'm going to pose a couple of questions for the panel. And there's a couple of ways we can do this. We can go round robin and everyone respond, or we can just duke it out. It's like however we want to do. If we want to do virtual agreement and disagree, we can do whatever. But I'll start by posing a question, and then we'll go round robin, and that hopefully turns into some discussion and dialogue. Does that sound good?
Great.
Okay. So we know the 2020 pandemic, right? It's got to be first up. It's in our face, as we know. And we know it's evolved how work gets done for millions of people across the globe, right? Primarily changing where work gets done in some respects, right? As we all kind of look around the environments that we're doing our work in. But how do you think this affects the employee experience in the business as we forge kind of a new way of work? What are your thoughts on that? And does this permanently shift the employee experience and the expectations that employees have? And let's kick it off with Dolly.
So I want to address this in 2 parts. One is the business, and then the second part is the employee. So I think as a business owner myself, and also consulting with our customers, we have to sort of reinvent the organization. The organizations have to be more resilient. They have to be re-engineered for speed, and also for a workforce that is going to be now distributed. We are going to see globally distributed teams. We're going to see more management has to be much more rigorous and much more metrics based in the organizations, because the workforce is going to be outside their offices if they are in say white collar jobs or jobs that allow for remote work. Then there is then also the whole idea of adaptability and flexibility. So I know that for ourselves that we were very quick to adapt to the new situation, and we were very well prepared because we are in this we operate in a digital environment, but much harder for even schools and academic institutions. So everybody has to start thinking about how do they redesign their business, how do they reinvent it, how do they reimagine it. Now, in parallel, they have to think about their workforce. What is the workforce going to look like? Where are they going to work? How are they going to keep the workforce connected? because it's not, we talked about, it's not just the social interaction, but people work, especially in L&D, we all work in teams. Now, are we going to be globally distributed, smaller teams? That's what it looks like. How do we, again, how do we reskill and upskill them? So there are many aspects that the businesses have to think about, and in parallel, the workforce, the employees have to think about what is their experience going to be. They were so used to, in fact, in my own company, for 30 years, we had in all our solutions development centers at 9 o'clock, we had Friday breakfast where the senior managers, it was servant leadership. How do we do that now? So their experience from being connected to disconnected to how they operate in their environments now is all changing. And I think we still have to, we have a lot of thinking to do. And I have a really good graphic I want to share, but I want you to go to the next person and I'll see if I can share this screen in the meantime.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dolly. Anyone else want to jump in on this? I think it's kind of, and maybe even looking at is there a schism being created because there are a certain number of workers that are frontline workers, right? And they don't get to work remotely, if you will.
No. So that's I think you're right. There is a division in that, and another let's say segmentation is that those organizations supporting external clients. So if you look at professional services and others, they not only have to internally adapt, but also externally adapt to the fact that their customers are also working from home. So there is no place to, let's say, regularly meet, run projects with people in the project room. It all has to be done virtually. And that leads, let's say, to another comment on the employee experience. So I think for the first couple of weeks, people adapted, and there was a couple of months where people got in the rhythm of working remotely, but also experienced the downside of that, which is the one-dimensionality of let's say, the virtual communication, maybe the lack of warmth, depth, spontaneous meetings. So that is hitting, let's say, employee engagement, and more we are hearing and reading about mental fatigue related to that. So that's quite a concern.
Yeah, good point. And Kat, you were wanting to jump in. Go for it.
Thanks. It is a massive question, and I think what's really interesting about where we're at today, 6 months in, are we nearly 6 months in, or over that threshold now? I think, demand for remote working and flexible working was already there pre-pandemic and was starting to force employers to consider what that could look like in the future. But actually, when I think about now and what we need to do now as individuals and organisations, I think the obvious starting point is kind of like a case-by-case, employee-by-employee task analysis. What does each person do each day? How do they spend their time? Who do they interact with? What functions are they performing? And from there, you can kind of start to build a blueprint for who needs to be interacting with whom, for what activities, at which point in organisational tasks, and so on. And I think that will actually do two things over the longer term. The first thing is it will, if organisations are able to successfully do that kind of root analysis, they'll be able to start to piece together what the future workplace would look like, what it needs to be, what functions will be fulfilled there. And then the second piece is by doing that task analysis, in any case, you are better able to determine what tasks of any person's day-to-day job are likely over a longer period of time to get automated, so that you can start analysing what that upskilling and reskilling trajectory would look like on an employee by employee basis, but I have to say it's a big meaty task, and I have to say the future of work now is entirely customized and down to each individual participant in that workforce.
Well, it's an interesting comment, because I have found that job architectures they're going to be looked at. Everyone's going to have to redefine jobs probably, and I don't know that will happen proactively in a lot of organizations. So as jobs are being redefined, how do you think, what role does corporate learning play in that? Usually, like right now, I'm leading an initiative to do a task analysis, but it's leading to redefinition of some jobs, because we're finding out that what they actually do does not correspond to what the job description states, right? So what impact do you think this has on talent matching, on finding the right people for the right jobs, or making sure the capabilities are in the right place? Who wants to take that on? That's a big question. I thought Felix and Juliet do that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're finding as roles come through to the platform since the pandemic is that candidates are very much challenging why things aren't remote now, rather than before it would have been much more of an added benefit. But now there's much more of a challenge back to employers, and so candidates are very much, although obviously on the back foot at the moment in terms of the economy, very much driving what they would want in terms of being able to work from wherever they choose. I think the interesting thing that I'm seeing much more is that roles are less dependent on geography. But also, as Kat was saying, really the thing that excites me a lot is around how it opens it up, not just from a geography perspective, but also from sort of reasonable adjustments start to become part of all of our lives, in that, it's not just for those that have got disabilities, but now we're all talking about, but I don't have Wi-Fi, but I don't have this, and I don't have that, and I need this within my house to help me do my job. And I think that makes those roles much more accessible to people and available to people that they might not have had otherwise, because it's now something we're all having to talk about. And it actually, as many things, when you're designing for the extremes, it brings everything much better and raises the bar for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic, you're right. I feel like
plus I also think, just to get into the conversation, plus I also think in a way for me the whole COVID was just a catalyst of something that was happening anyway. Right, it's an accelerant. It's now, and maybe I'm speaking out of a different thing. I've worked from home for the last 5 years with international teams, and I have loads of my friends from IBM to business management consultancy. They all worked remote because they were traveling and stuff like this. So I don't think it's something new. And I think what we need to do as organizations, instead of thinking like, oh, that's what's in the past, how do we adopt the past? It's like, here's what's the future going to look like, and how do we look backwards and adapt everything. And in my perspective, it's also give much more ability to create to, as you said, to the individual people. So how do you want to work? What is your job like? Because most people know much better what task need to be actually done than the organization knows it, right? It's this argument when, if you do cost cutting, ask everybody, like the cleaner in an organization, where are the actual cost cutting? Don't try to do it as a management team. And it's exactly the same again when you look at how does learning happen? How does work is supposed to happen? Which jobs could you do? And yes, they need help, but at the same time, I think we're still taking too much of a hand-holding approach instead of encouraging and building people and saying, you're self-determined individuals. What can I do to give you more freedom, to give you more thing? How can I make you as an individual much more, happy, powerful, and a decision making, instead of just looking always back and saying that's your job, that's your task. I don't know. For me, it's like how citizens in democracy normally are being treated, right? You've got rights and responsibilities, but in a way, how you want to live it, it's up to you. And I think organizations are often too much like dictatorships still, where you have bureaucracy. It's not a living organism; it's a structure. And I think we need to get to the living organism.
I agree with Felix that COVID is an accelerator, and maybe I'd like to add 2 observations that COVID is maybe accelerating. One is that rather than looking for and marketing job content, organizations are marketing capabilities they're looking for. And the second one is that I see in organizations, L&D teaming up with their talent acquisition and recruitment colleagues more than before to look at what do we need to select at the front door rather than compensate and develop during the career. And there's two capabilities that we are seeing organizations are starting to look for at the front door, which is resilience and learning agility.
I agree. We can see that. I've seen this with a couple of customers where you had L&D compensation joining talent acquisition at different stages, and it's kind of this cross-boundary part works really well. Yeah. And it's then also coupled with that they take a view of colleague. So they don't talk about candidate anymore. They say this is a future colleague, a current present colleague, and a past colleague. And then also colleague is less than it breaks also the employee mold, because that could be a contractor, it could be a freelancer, it could be an intern. It isn't an employee. And I think that's something that we, when I hear employee engagement, I'm always going, ugh, the minority of people are employees. What about everybody else who is part of your team, but isn't an employee in a legal sense? So I think if we can, I guess, reframe what employee stands for, if we can reframe the boundaries that talent acquisition is here, L&D is here, but get it come together. And I think a lot of the segmentation just was introduced because it helped people have control, like middle managers, and secondly to sell more products. If I can sell you an employer branding product, actually there's only one brand, there's no employer brand, consumer brand, but we have all of these agencies because it's something I can sell.
I think that's a really important point as well that I would build on that Felix has just made. Is that as we eventually back from this economic crisis,
I think I can't see Brandon.
So if I may add to what you said, Brandon, about job roles, tying it back to the businesses, how they are going to reimagine themselves, reinvent themselves. The job roles are obviously going to be based on the business functions. And for example, everybody now has to not only be just prepared for agility and resilience and all of that, but also speed of decision making while improving productivity using technology and data in new ways. For example, people, as we have seen, have had to launch new business models. And several retailers launched curbside delivery within a couple of days. Yeah. Restaurants, fancy restaurants, reimagined themselves and became, drive-through pickup delivery and pickup kind of joints. So that means that, again, what is the impact of those new business models on the employee? There's a serious L&D implication, because now you have to not only redefine their job functions and their job roles, but also train them in those new roles. Exactly. And so I think that our industry actually is going to be very pivotal in the success of the future of work.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's interesting, right? I believe, and I've seen that to the companies we sell to, they all had these plans already in their drawers, the reimagining plans, or most of them, right? The ones, a little bit forward-thinking ones, and they just had to pull it out and make it happen. And they didn't make it happen over the last 2 years because it was too profitable, or there was too many things that were potentially not working out anymore. And that's why the plans suddenly were there, and everybody was, whoa, they're reinventing. No, it's just because for the first time it became a financial necessity of doing this reinvention. But I agree with you, now it's interesting to see we have a workforce that might work in an outdated model that doesn't work anymore. So how can we now transition not only the hard skills, but the soft skills, hard skills into the new role? Yeah. And obviously, we all have seen and read the forecast that in 2030, 70% of all of the roles and jobs as we know it will be gone.
Yeah.
So
it's a really good point.
And I can see it in recruitment and talent acquisition where we come in. There's new roles being created, like AI coaches and candidate quality people. And the role of the classical recruiter becomes more and more narrow. And they have to reinvent themselves. And there's a lot of fight against it. But I think, once the external environment changes, it's like surfing. When the wave comes, you need to be on the board. And COVID has just triggered the wave.
So one thing that's kind of critical.
So I think it's a fab time, and what I really like is that it's up to us to create this future.
Mhm.
You know, it's our chance now to create the world we want to live in, instead of having to wait until somebody else tells it to us how it's being done.
Yeah.
And I think that's where L&D is so important.
Hear me? Can
You know,
everyone
this whole imagining,
I can hear you.
reimagining,
Yeah.
helping people to open up their own creativity, because I believe most people are creative. We just don't put them in the environment where they can be creative and where they can create it.
I don't think Felix
And I
hears
think
me.
that's what's now exciting. And that's, if as an L&D professional, that's what I would be focusing on. How can I put people in the right environment? And I think remote working just does it for us, right? I can now live in my habitat where I can perform best.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So one of the,
it's just about how do we take this creativity together and build
one
it
of the
up.
things that comes up
Well,
with
that's
that,
at least, you can see I'm excited.
no, that's good. Thank you, Felix. One of the things that comes into this conversation, I think, is, and I keep using that word schism, but I want to ask another question about leaders, right, and their role in kind of this new future of work. Because one thing I've noticed, I was reading just this morning about Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook has these almost weekly town halls with his employees, and you know, Facebook is sort of
right. Yeah, I mean, were you there when Wiley and when you?
Facebook's in a pivotal role right now, where, you know, obviously we're having an election in the U.S. and all that kind of stuff. But he was asking about employee impact.
I think the technology is letting us down a little bit here.
Can everyone hear me? I don't know.
Yeah, I can hear you, Brandon.
What he was talking about, he was taking questions from his employees, right? And a lot of them, now that they're working at home, they're bothered or annoyed by the fact that the free food isn't available anymore, because they stocked all the work areas with free food. Zuckerberg was really wanting to talk more about their global impact on, you know, everyone on Earth, right, at that level. And so he sees a disconnect, and he's like, really, are you asking me about free food when, you know, we're in this sort of important position? So the point I'm trying to make is, how do we look at leaders now in the new kind of future of work, if you will? How can leaders be more engaged and connected? Because there does be a schism there in some respects about, and I see it even in some areas too, where I'm at, where leaders have this expectation of one expectation, but do they really know how the work gets done and what's going on at that level? Any thoughts or ideas on connecting leadership in this new future of work? Kat, you were making a comment earlier too.
I'm not sure we have the answer. The one thing that I do see is that there's an extended responsibility, because basically the responsibility of leaders ended where people left the office, and now people working from home, suddenly they are responsible for those people in their home environment, including their well-being, let's say managing their anxiety. So I think that is a key difference from the past.
Great, Kat.
I think it's a really interesting. It's brilliant that you brought it up, because for me, I think leadership as a construct needs to go under the microscope in parallel now, and leaders need to lean into the fact that the skills and attributes that are required by these teams and these workforces and these organizations has also changed, because we're in entirely different territory now. So, you know, we are at the end of command and control and master and servant relationships, and we are venturing into a flatter structured, more collaborative work paradigm. And what are the key things that we need to feel around us as individuals to participate and give of our best? And they are human things, back to an earlier point in the conversation, things like, yeah, I need to know that my leaders have a vision, and I need a clear articulation of that. I need to be aligned with that vision. I need to know that I can trust them. I need them to know that they can trust me. That is a complete, for me, that is a complete world apart from many conventional business practices.
Right.
Fantastic opportunity, but it's going to take some real introspection for people to step up and lead from the front in that way.
Absolutely. I think from organizations I've seen, it's a massive opportunity for HR and people, teams to actually start to be at that lead table, that head table in an organization they had access to before. I've done a lot of delivery technology programs, and the money and the focus and the analysis has all gone in certain directions towards new products or new whizzy things that are happening in operations or customer experience, and it's very rarely gone internally within the team. And so I think it's really an opportunity for people teams to now take a place at the table that they maybe already had, but have more of a voice at that table because of the reliance on the people within the organizations. And certainly from a leadership perspective, where we're seeing it work really well is where they are obviously need to be less remote, but having those small touch points with employees and with people in the organizations, and those may need to be manufactured initially in order just to start to get that connection that they might have had when they walked through the office once, and everybody they have those just sort of 30-second chats with people, but those need to be recreated, or the outcome certainly needs to be recreated somehow, and it can't just be ignored and everybody sort of being in their individual offices or kitchens, as I normally am.
Good. That's good.
So I wanted to make a point on this one. So a set of new leadership and managerial skills will need to be developed, because the way we have managed workforce or led workforces has changed drastically. So for example, with the growth of the gig workers, and we are going to see organizations hiring teams to develop certain products or provide certain services who may be a group of gig workers. So that means that the management in the company has to be very, very strong. How do you measure their productivity? How do you communicate with them? How do you reward them? And similarly, if they are your employees and they are working remotely, again, performance management has a major implication on performance management and metrics and trust building and connectivity and collaboration. For example, I know there's a lot of companies are doing this. I know we are. Our managers are meeting, our project managers, our product managers, our supervisors are meeting daily for Scrum calls in the morning and in the afternoon. So the feedback is, this is really exciting. We used to never talk to each other because we were in our offices, and then occasionally we had meetings and so on and so forth. So actually it's created a stronger bond and a stronger team. And we have not seen any impact on productivity. As a matter of fact, the productivity has improved and collaboration has improved, which was not as good before. Collaboration wasn't as strong as it is today. So there is a silver lining to this, but needless to say that we are going to have to retrain our leaders and managers, and they also have to definitely be more empathetic. They have to be more sensitive to people's personal lives as they are dealing with either their children or illnesses or whatever else. So we have been actually doing a series for ATD in Washington. We host the community of practice, and this week we're doing the second in a series on empathetic leadership. So many things are going to have to change in terms of leadership, management, and performance measurement.
Yeah, really good point. So I want to ask each of you one specific question. I think we're coming to close of the panel, but if you stepped into an elevator and there's a CEO there, and you're going from one floor to another, if you want to talk about to this individual one or two imperatives for the workforce that they need to understand, or at least help you enlighten them, what would it be? What would you talk about? You've got about a minute or two with that CEO. Kat, you want to go for it?
Okay, so I would be encouraging to hire for curiosity. I think that is the meta skill. And I would be advocating that workforce management, which I use really loosely, is all about customization now. It's all about customization for optimal performance and potential.
Fantastic. So Dolly, take that 1 minute you have with that CEO. What would you talk about?
I would say build for a business resilience, speed to mission, rapid change, reskilling and upskilling, and organizational redesign.
Fantastic. And Felix?
Treat your employees like citizens.
Good, sweet and short. I like that, Felix. And Juliet?
I want to make sure that they were really understanding the employees that they have and what value each of those employees can bring to the organisation in terms of their potential. And that is, as Kat was saying, on an individual basis, really getting to know people much better on a deeper level than they do now.
And Jan?
Results of the organization depend on the quality and the motivation of people. So I'd encourage him to role model development, make sure that he supports HR in creating a supportive learning climate.
Fantastic. So does it look good for everyone? What's the climate? How do you feel when you look at everything that's happening globally with the job market overall, the future of work, the worry that a lot of people have about automation and the impact of the digital age? What is there to be really positive about?
I can go.
Go for it, Kat.
I am very positive as an overall, and I think we need to look to the past. You know, there's this whole narrative emanating about, you know, job destruction and artificial intelligence and so on and so forth. But actually, if you look back hundreds and hundreds of years before the financial banking systems even started, humans have always been industrious, and they have always been creative, and they've always been curious. And I think we are probably leaning into 10 to 15 years of reinvention, but I think we collectively and collaboratively have the potential to make things so much better than they've been up until now.
Fantastic. Anyone else want to jump in the positive?
Absolutely. I think the opportunity for reinvention and taking stock and deciding what we want to do with the future is massive. That is amidst, you know, individuals that are struggling so much, and so it is incredibly difficult and probably hard for a lot of people to think about. But I do hope that in, you know, 6-12 months' time, that's something that we can see much more clearly, and that we're actually in control of what happens next.
Yeah, that's good. There's two things I'd like to chip in. One is the fact that COVID has, I think, accelerated the move from control to trust in many organizations. Because in quite a few organizations, including the one I used to work for, people were not allowed to work from home. And now, you know, you have your employees working from home and steer them in a different. And I think second thing is that I think development is now more than ever a joint responsibility. So it's not employees looking at the employer to be developed. It's also taking charge of their own development and you know, in a sort of better balanced way, finding a journey to the future.
I like that, a journey to the future. Anyone else want to jump in on that one? And Dolly, I just want to finish. You were going to share something. I don't know if you have that.
Well, let me see if I can. I have actually a split screen, and it's a really good graphic that shows the principles of the future organization, and it encapsulates everything, basically what everybody's been talking about. So let's see if I can do it.
Okay. See if you can get it on the screen, and otherwise post it on the.
Okay, I'll post it, because if you can see this,
I think we can click on that little arrows and go full screen, right?
Somehow it's not going full screen, but
I can see it full screen.
but
I can see most of it, but it would be good if you could post it, Dolly.
Yeah, I will post it. But I thought this really captures the essence of what we have been talking about. I think this is a really good discussion. And I see a real silver lining in this, as much as, you know, there's a lot of suffering and change. we are always afraid of change, and this has accelerated us, which we've used that word consistently. But for myself, I came to the US 35 years ago to look for ed tech to take back to India, and there was no readiness there, and then there was no readiness in the US, and now I think it's a very exciting time to actually help with that change, because people were not ready before. Now they have no choice. And then as the days are progressing, everybody is coming to terms with it, that we have to reimagine the future. So, and can't hang on to the past. So I think that is a really big plus to make the changes.
Really good comment, Dolly. And Felix, I'd like you to end it on one thing, because we initially talked way back with Liz. We were talking about Pocket Recruiter and what you're working on, but you made a really good comment about how the past does inform a lot of what's going to be happening. Can you talk just a second about that and take us off? Because I think this is the end of the panel.
Well, yeah, what we talked about there is that I think, as people have referred to beforehand, that we have a lot of, we've seen, the Industrial Revolution beforehand. If we went from wooden ships to metal shipbuilding, how everything has changed and how skills have been done. So it's nothing new. But for me, the main thing is, the future has an ancient heart, and what I can just see, taking it for recruitment, it actually goes back again to what we've done before so successfully, which is human to human and being human and treating humans as humans.
I love that. I wanted you to bring that back because I remember it from last time. So really great panel. I want to, Cathryn, Dolly, Jan, Juliet, and Felix, thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning here in Atlanta, or whatever time it is where you're at. Are there any last questions? There's been vigorous discussion in the general chat. I don't know if there are any questions there. I think our back's against the wall on time, but great panel, everyone. I really appreciate you coming forward. All right, thank you very much. And we are done with this panel. Thank you, folks. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks.